Hey there, YTPC, New Jersey Piper Ben here. Just doing a VR for the Victorian Piper today. Sean's doing his first giveaway. His channel's been quite successful. If you're not subbed to him yet, please go over to the Victorian Piper and sub to him. Got a lot of great content. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. Just as a side note, this is not a tobacco related video, given the subject of his giveaway. So if you don't want to learn anything about Harriet Tubman, please feel free to, stop watching. I'm not going to cover any tobacco or pipe stuff in this video. Just to note quickly too, wanted to give a quick shout out to Jacob and Tom. My wife tells me they are my biggest fans. And yeah, so I just wanted to do that really quickly as well. Hey guys. And also to call out to my wife got me this cool little light box back here. So I can kind of use that for videos and, just put little messages up there and whatnot. But I just decided to try it out today, i.e., my video for Harriet Tubman. So the premise of his giveaway was to do a VR or a comment based on Queen Victoria's reign, which ran from 1837 to 1901 when she died, and he wanted to know more information about our favorite person from that period, sort of a historical figure type situation. Now, I've never really thought of that, who would be my favorite historical figure from that time period. But something did definitely shoot to mind related to Harriet Tubman, because I've always been curious about her story, because you can't help but hear about her growing up in school, and you basically hear she helped people escape slavery to freedom. And that's kind of the gist of it, or at least that's the gist of what you remember about her based on what you learn in school. So she was always one of those characters where, like, okay, that setup alone could tell 100 stories or more easily. So it's like, there's got to be more to that. So it's like, there's got to be some more information out there that's pretty readily available, given how popular of a figure she is in history. So I was like, all right, I'm going to look some stuff up. And, being the, young kid that I am, according to some of my commenters, I go to YouTube because why not? Back in the day, I would go to my World Book Encyclopedia. But today we have YouTube. And to be fair, I watched quite a few videos, but I tried to gravitate to the ones that seemed to be more reputable sources. So this information primarily came from like videos done by Smithsonian and like Maryland Public Television, because she was actually born in Maryland. So I took some messy notes. I'll try to make this make as much sense as possible, but I'm obviously gonna fail as a storyteller. I'm just basically trying to relay information. So Harriet Tubman was actually born Araminta Ross. And because of her name Araminta, she grew up being known as Minty for short. And she was born in 1822 in Dorchester County, Maryland. And she was owned by a slave owner named Edward Brodus. And basically she started getting rented out as property for work from the age of 6 years old. And it was stated that her earliest memory as a kid was actually her sister being taken away from her family and never to be seen again, which is obviously incredibly sad. And Edward Brodus made approximately $60 a year renting out Harriet. Okay, there was an episode that happened as a kid where she was in some sort of general store, and somebody was attempting to escape, a male, I believe, and I think somebody in the store or the store owner, they had these weights, like metal discs that are used to weigh out certain commodity type products. Like if you want to buy a pound of flour, they're going to put that pound disc on the scale, and then they're going to pour the powder on the scale until it evens out, right? That's like how they did things in the old days when things weren't really pre-measured. So apparently this kid was trying to escape. Somebody took a 2-pound disc and hurled it at the person trying to escape. But Harriet was in the way apparently, and she got hit directly in the head. And this was a pretty catastrophic injury. I think she was close to dying even from it, but she recovered. But from that point on, she would have pretty regular epileptic seizures. And she claims to have visions in these. She claims to have had visions in these seizures. And she was a very religious person, so she took it that God was giving her visions and telling her and sort of directing her what to do. So that's how those seizures materialized for her, at least. So, fast forward to 1849, and she actually escaped from a place called Poplar Neck, Maryland, because she found out she had been sold and she was going to be heading south, which was obviously very horrible news for her. So that was, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back for her, and she escaped, and she used the Underground Railroad to make it to the Pennsylvania border, which was over 100 miles away on foot. And the Underground Railroad's another one of those things you hear about, but it wasn't like a railroad, or it really wasn't that underground at all. It was just a phrase used to describe a network of homes and people that would actually protect slaves attempting to escape to freedom. So these were sort of friends of the cause, so to speak. So she used that to make her way to Pennsylvania. And again, she, at that point in 1849, once she made it to Pennsylvania, she was free. And there was no recourse. If she had stayed there, there would have been no recourse for anybody from Maryland to come after her across state lines. So that changed in 1850 with the Fugitive Slave Act, which was a national law that they basically passed that said if somebody escapes slavery, no matter where they are in the country, they can be sought and brought back to their owners, so to speak. So I don't know if that was retroactive or what, but anyway, even though she had basically escaped to freedom and she could have maintained her freedom at that point, she ended up going back into Maryland over 13 times over the next 10 years and helping over 70 people to freedom, including family members and friends that she had made during her time in Maryland. And this is obviously an abridged version. They made a movie about this. I actually have not seen the movie. I'm interested in it, but I have not seen it. But another very interesting thing I actually did not know about her. I knew she had obviously gone back a lot to save people. But during the Civil War, she actually became the first American woman to ever lead troops into battle in and around Beaufort, South Carolina. And this was basically along the Combahee River. And so along a 25-mile stretch of the Combahee River, Harriet Tubman and a regiment of Union soldiers traveled along that river in a fairly large boat, and basically would dock the boat along the river edge, get off the boat, and then basically invade a plantation for all intents and purposes and get as many people out as they could. It's like surprise attacks. And just from that operation alone, they liberated over 750 people just along a 25-mile stretch of the Combahee River. Later in life, she fought for women's suffrage alongside Susan B. Anthony. She was friends with Frederick Douglass and John Brown, and she even helped John Brown plan the raid on Harper's Ferry. That's another story I want to dig into that sounds very interesting on its surface, but I don't know a lot about it. I think it's one of the characters or one of the people involved in that raid was like the inspiration to Django Unchained, the Quentin Tarantino movie. So I want to kind of look into that more as well. And even into her 70s, she opened an old age home for former slaves and an infirmary that offered free health care to anyone. She organized a network of spies comprised of black men in the South that helped advise the Union Army. She helped establish schools in South Carolina for freed slaves to learn how to read and write, because that was actually one of the a big deal of that era, and maintaining that control even after slavery was sort of legalized. Was during slavery, it was literally illegal to teach a slave to read or write, because obviously if somebody doesn't know how to read or write, it's kind of hard to exist in society. How do you vote? How do you learn about issues? By reading the news, etc. So that was actually one of the huge ways they attempted to subjugate black people in that time. So, forming those schools to actually teach freed slaves how to read and write to be honest, if you want to incorporate a group of people into society, that's kind of where you got to start when you think about it. So that was obviously incredibly important work. So that's just a few kind of highlights I noticed from the stuff I watched. She lived to be 91, died in 1913, and she was buried with full military honors, which I think is very cool too. And her gravesite and sort of museum and things like that is actually located in Auburn, New York. Which I saw that, I'm like, wow, I could probably get there in a few hours. That'd be a very cool place to visit. So gonna kind of take a mental note of that for like weekend trips and stuff going forward when the world normalizes a little bit more. So yeah, Harriet Tubman, going from she helped people escape to freedom, to finding out all this very interesting stuff and the impact she had, and even after slavery, the things she did with her life. She was an incredibly impactful person. If you help liberate 750 people, and plus the people she helped early on in Maryland, that's pretty crazy and pretty awesome. So yeah, it was a lot of fun learning about her. Okay. I guess that's gonna do it. Hope you guys were interested in some of this. If not, I apologize, but as usual, be excellent to each other. Have a fantastic weekend.